the Kouryuu Podcast, where we discuss the cultures between Japan and Canada. I'm Zach from Canada.
I'm Noah from Japan.
And this week we have a special guest, Alex from the Ikinari Podcast and the SomewhatJP YouTube channel. So first of all, thanks for being here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And for those people who might not be familiar, I guess with your work, can you just give us a bit of an intro to those?
Yeah, for sure. Well, right now I'm working in Tokyo at a game company, and I also have a little podcast I do every week. That's only in Japanese. But we just kind of like it's called Ikinari Podcast. Ikinari means like sudden, or like it means like quick or sudden or whatever. And by basically just like no frills, just speak Japanese, and then starts randomly. It's kind of like a random podcast. And then I also do some YouTube here and there. Mostly about vocab and stuff like that, because I enjoy some vocab. That's me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Yeah, I guess what's good from a perspective of a Japanese learner, I feel like your YouTube channel is really good for I guess for like really specific, I guess, like programming Japanese, but also as I was kind of telling you, like your video about like how to learn Japanese, and like you were talking about like if you get into a slump to kind of just try something new. Yeah, I feel like that's, for me personally, it's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, honestly. Yeah, because even now I'm kind of in a slump at this point, right? Because now that I'm like used to everything, things have kind of like gotten kind of to the same pace, and I don't like things being at the same pace, you know. So now I'm trying to find a way to switch it up. Maybe I should watch that video again, honestly, to remind myself what I think. Sure. But
yeah. And then also, I should say your podcast is also, I really appreciate how, I guess it is just very raw. And I guess for a Japanese learner, like you kind of learn, like the kind of like really casual Japanese that you're not going to get from like a textbook generally.
Yeah, we try not to sugarcoat anything, for sure. And like we try not to have like the classic, I don't know, start music or whatever. It's like very, very like very no editing. Like if we mess up in the middle of it or whatever, or like there's a little pause where like I don't know what to say, we don't edit any of it. It's like the only editing I do is like I cut the start and the beginning with like the emptiness, like, no talking. That's all I do, and then I just send it over to Nihongo no Kai, the guy that I'm working with.
Sure.
And uploads it, and that's it. So. Yeah,
that's great.
It's very, very low effort, so it's good for me, honestly.
I just want to say I'd really love it if you kept that the same, but they also like threw in like a MeUndies ad. Just at a really random.
That would be
like so many.
Yeah. That's pretty funny, honestly. Just random ads throughout the
Yeah. Like, anyways, but getting back to the topic this week, so as Alex mentioned, he does work in game development, and has worked in both Japan and Canada, so we just want to talk about that, because I feel like there's not a lot of people I could say they've done that, so I feel like you've got a very
it's a very niche thing, especially with like my channel as well. I feel like there's not a lot of programming stuff about Japanese and like game dev stuff, specifically about like the language as well. So it's a very like niche area, which I guess I'm happy to be in. But
sure.
But
yeah. So I guess just to start off, can you just like give us just like a bit of your background in game development? So I guess like how you got started, and I guess what exactly you do.
Right. Yeah. So I studied computer science in university. So I did that for 4 years, and before then in like high school and everything, I did some programming as well. Like my parents are actually both programmers, so they kind of
cool. That's awesome.
I think they kind of like my dad. In one weekend randomly when I was like, I think like 6th grade or something. I was pretty small. Like he was like, "Oh, let's make a snake game. Let's like program a snake game." Or something. And I had no idea what programming was, so we made it together in a weekend. And I was like, I think he spread his roots into like my brain to like about programming and games or whatever. And from then it kind of just spiraled into a career, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, so I just I just played a lot of games, and I wanted to make them. I didn't know what that meant, and then I figured it out. I figured out that, I didn't know math and programming, and then I like those, and then
that's awesome.
kind of thing. But yeah, now before, so I worked in Toronto at a game company, and now I'm here at another game company in Tokyo. In Toronto, I worked as like a tools programmer, and now I'm working as a game programmer. So they're kind of like different parts of the game flow, I would say, like the game like development flow. Tools would be kind of like making little tools or like productivity applications or whatever that support the people making the games. So if you imagine like what did I make before? For example, like a website that people can use, that only people inside like the company that can use, that can send random like cheat commands or something like that to any game that's currently running, kind of thing. Stuff like that. So like tools that people will use to like basically like help speed up their process or like make stuff easier. Like that. Yes, I did that in Toronto, and now here I'm just a game programmer basically. So just making parts of. I can't really say specifics yet because the game I'm
no worries
isn't
for sure
yet, but just parts of the game. So so I can't even think.
Of course. An
example, honestly.
I'm sure there's like legal stuff to it too. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Of course, I understand.
But yeah, that's just basic parts of the game. Any part you can imagine that's like only the game, not like the deep parts, but like that's on top of like the engine or something like that. And
sure.
My field, I guess.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. So you said both your parents are programmers. What kind of programming did they do?
They did like the more not as fun programming, I would say. Like my dad does more like database business logic kind of
sure
stuff. So just handling a lot of data from like that comes from like warehouses, for example, and like tracking stuff that are scanned or stuff like that. It's very just business focused kind of thing. But he's big on like the database stuff there. And my mom also does database stuff. I think she's technically now like a data analyst, data architect of sorts or something like that. But she works for like a clothing company, I guess, and then handles like all their like stock data and everything like that behind the scenes, I guess. That's what that's what I think she does.
Sure.
Okay. Did they teach you how to like program everything, like something?
They taught me a little bit. Like mostly like my dad. My dad is the more like strict like one of the family. So like he wanted me to like learn some programming. So he taught me in the beginning a little bit. He wanted to teach me more, but then I was kind of like, once it got too intense, I was kind of like, I just want to play games, man.
Sure,
this is too much. I just want to play games. So it didn't go on for too long. The lessons didn't go on for too long, but they definitely like helped me in the beginning, I would say, for sure, the most.
Yeah, for sure. Because I guess like programming for like database stuff and for video games for sure is not quite the same. I'm sure there's like fundamentals, but like
there are definitely some fun. I mean, they definitely have touched the realm of like what I'm like. My dad specifically has worked for a game company like when he first started programming in Romania. Actually, the same company that I worked for as well.
Cool.
Which is pretty funny, honestly. Like we started at that company. I mean, his was based in Romania, mine was in Toronto, but like he started when he was like, I don't know what, 21 or something like that. I also started when I was 21 or something like that. At the same company. I mean, different periods, but that was pretty interesting. So he has like some like there's some like if I talk about what I'm doing, they'll understand everything kind of thing, and the other way around. So
sure, yeah, that's really cool. And I guess just kind of going off that. So, is there a type of game you like developing the most, or
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. I haven't really experienced it too much, but I don't think I'd like social, like the mobile app social games or whatever like that. You know, like like I don't know, like they're like very popular like gacha games that are on like
Oh, sure.
on your phone and everything. I don't think I'm a big fan of those. I really like the bigger like, at least for now, the bigger 3D like AAA level games kind of thing. Like I really enjoy it because they get really really complex, and I enjoy it. Like it's like a good challenge, I think, programming for it. So that's basically that's what I've mostly been like experienced with as well. So that's kind of what I'm most used to. But
Sure.
yeah, that's kind of what I like making the most, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. So for the company you worked for in Canada, of course we don't have to get too far into specifics, but what kind of company was it? Was it, I guess, size wise, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it was a pretty big one. It was a AAA company. Yeah, so it's a AAA company. So the game like the scale of all the games they made were pretty big, which kind of works with what I said earlier about just like making like a big AAA like 3D game kind of thing. But yeah, and then the company I'm at now it's a smaller company. I don't think it's a AAA company or anything, but like they work with a lot of they're mostly like they get contracts from other big companies and then they work with them kind of thing. So even if our company is not like specifically AAA or whatever like that, maybe we get a chance to work on a bigger title because it's just a contract or something like that. So that's the floating around there, but
yeah. So what is I guess, how different are those experiences for you?
It's very very different. I mean, obviously the elephant in the room is that it's Canada versus Japan. Like,
yeah,
no matter what, even if it's the exact same thing, it would be very very different, I feel.
Yeah.
But just like work wise, I guess, like not even like pretending it's not in like Japan versus Canada or something like that. Just work wise, I guess the biggest difference is that the one in Toronto was like making their own games kind of thing, their own like AAA games kind of thing. And then now in Japan, we're like we get contracts, so like a lot of creative direction, for example, comes from other companies rather than us, kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like we need to, if there's like a milestone or whatever, we always need to. I mean, even I guess even in Toronto, we had to do something similar, but like we had to have like a for example a alpha build or something like that, like a certain milestone, and then we had to send it off to another company to them see like
right.
see if they accept this as a successful whatever milestone build, and then like kind of always having to get approval of everything you're doing. But technically that's also how like other big companies, even if they're making their own games, work, because even if it's just internal, like you send it up to like the CEO of the company at the end, like they'll be checking like every like alpha beta build or whatever like that.
Cool.
There's those small differences there. Obviously like in now, because I'm at a smaller company, there's a lot of people that are like we don't have a lot of people, so you kind of have to wear a lot of hats.
Sure.
So like normally at a bigger company, there's enough people for everything. Like they just hire so many people that like everyone has their own feature and they're working on their only that one feature and they're the master of that one feature.
Gotcha.
But for me now, I definitely like I'm working on, for example, like 3-4 main features, I guess, and I have to like kind of figure out my time there, and I don't have like a real manager even like that's like making sure I'm doing all my tasks or whatever. Like I have a person that I go for advice and everything, that's kind of my manager, but there's no one telling me like, oh, you should focus on this for this week and this for next week. Like I have to kind of just figure it out myself, which is very different.
Right.
At a big company where like that's very very, you have to like you have to like manage every hour, but you have to be very like they check on you to make sure like you're not getting off track or something like that,
Yeah, for sure. And so between the two, is there one that you prefer more?
That one I don't know yet. That's what I'm trying to figure it out, honestly. That's part of why I wanted to experience it here, like to see the different scales and like what I actually do like. In addition to like if I like tools programming versus game programming, because I really enjoyed my like experience with tools, because like also there's like since you're not working on the game itself, for big milestones or whatever, you don't have to crunch too much either for that, which is nice.
Oh, that's good.
For games, obviously, like there's a milestone, you have to get your feature in by whatever.
Right, yeah.
If you're making a tool, like it's not going in the game. If you can't finish it, then like people will just have to do a little extra work to do whatever
sure.
is fixing, or helping. So there's less stress there. But trying to figure out what I like the most is kind of where I am in my life, I guess now, or in my career.
Sure. Yeah, so for crunch time, do you think it's more common in Japan or less common in Canada? I know in Canada you said like it's kind of different because you're working on tools.
Yeah.
But at least I guess for overtime, I mean, it's pretty famous for Japan. People say there's a lot. Has that been your experience so far?
So luckily, like the company I'm at is.
Can I ask you something? Sorry, what is that crunch time? Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. We should explain.
Okay, so sorry. Before I explain it, I didn't understand it. Sorry. Can you explain it? That like the crunch time is like
sure.
Go
ahead.
Okay, yeah. So
sorry.
I guess may I should have said crunch time because like crunch time is really specific. And Alex, correct me here if I get this wrong. So crunch time is like right before like a big milestone. Like they usually have to get like a lot of work done. So usually like there's a lot of overtime. Like basically to get the work done. And apparently it's pretty common in video games from what I've heard.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, crunch time for sure is I guess crunch time is just overtime before a milestone. That's probably the easiest way.
Yeah,
I guess. But what I think crunch time, no matter what game company you go to, you're gonna have that.
Sure.
For better or worse, I guess. But yeah, so even in Toronto, even in Japan now, like there's definitely crunch time before. I'm like right before a milestone right now, so it's very, very busy.
Oh wow! Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Now it's Golden Week now, so it's all chill.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, so definitely I'm feeling the crunch time even now. But and I think like I've heard a lot of stories and everything from like my coworkers here in Japan about like other companies. The company I'm at is really, really good where they don't like you doing overtime. Like they're very, very specific.
Oh, that's great.
Like, no overtime. I mean, obviously, if you need to crunch a little bit to finish your stuff, then that's kind of like it can't really help that. But yeah, there's not a lot of overtime there. That's like there's no mandated, like no specific like mandatory.
Sure.
Crunch time for sure is there in Toronto for sure. There's definitely a lot of crunch time. Not a lot of overtime. But definitely once you get to the game side of stuff, there's that crunch time is definitely goes up.
Sure.
That's kind of like I kind of like danced around the subject a little bit, but that's kind of like the main idea.
Yeah, so I guess to further expand a little bit more, between I guess Canadian like the Canadian work style and the Japanese one, like what do you think are the biggest differences?
Yeah, there's a lot of like in terms of like working styles specifically. I'm trying to think of a good way
or even was there anything that like kind of surprised you when you started working in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, so even now, I guess like I guess kind of goes back to like overtime in a way, but the company right now, I think, because in just Japan generally, the culture of overtime is very, very, very like entrenched. It's very like into in the culture, right? Where like everyone just does overtime and it's like normal, and because of that, even if like we're at like a company now where they don't want you to do overtime and like that's okay, you don't have to, people still tend to like, because they're used to it, are still doing like overtime for no reason. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like people are just here late all the time. For me, I try to like when I don't have to crunch, I'll like because we work usually 10 to 7. I come exactly at 10. I leave exactly at 7 when possible. I try to leave exactly at 7. I make my hours and like do my stuff, but people are there until like 9 easily, 9, 10. Like normally, when I don't even know if they have to, but this is kind of like something that they're used to. It's like not even like a. They're not even like. It's not. It doesn't even. They don't even mind. They don't care. Like.
Wow, yeah, that is.
Which
Yeah,
is really
that's
interesting,
definitely.
right? Like.
Yeah, it's completely different because here, like, generally for overtime, even if it's just a little bit, I feel like people kind of make a big deal about it.
Yeah, people are very like protective of their time that are like
Yeah,
outside
absolutely.
work, right? Where it's the complete opposite here. Like people are expected to work extra and be okay with it, and
Yeah.
then they get used to it, right?
Yeah, I guess another aspect, I guess kind of going off the same thing is that like in Japan, like I guess nomikai or like drinking parties with your like coworkers is
Right.
pretty common, but like in Canada, like that kind of thing I feel like never happens, right? Or like for sure your boss couldn't force you to do that.
Yeah. I mean, so I haven't had an experience yet with nomikai just because of
Like the
Corona.
pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess I wanted to experience it. Honestly, I do
Sure.
enjoy drinking, so like I think that would have been fun. But I mean, that's probably in maybe a year or two. Maybe I'll be
It's
able
probably
to.
on the card still, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's still there. But what's interesting, I think it's weirdly flipped in a way where at least for game companies, where I think in Japan, like after work, everything people like are okay with drinking and everything with their coworkers and stuff like that, right? People are very open in that way. But obviously, like if you go to lunch or something with your coworkers in Japan or whatever, no one's ever gonna order a beer or something like that. That's like the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing I feel like. I like talk. I mean, now, yeah, maybe you can also. I don't know if you agree or if you've had this experience as well, but like during lunch, no one ever drinks alcohol, right?
Yeah, right. Like you mean no one drinks alcohol like on the nomikai in the nomikai
No,
like after
no,
work?
just during lunch, like lunchtime.
During lunch. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. I've never seen people
Never seen it.
drinking.
Yeah. It's kind of
Alcohol
it's
on
kind of
lunch.
weird, right? If someone drank a
Yeah.
beer during
I sometimes see like some middle-aged people, like
Okay.
middle-aged guys,
Mm.
like if they have free times,
Mm.
like lunch with
Okay.
alcohol could be happen, but
Mm.
yeah, I've never seen actually in my
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
So then, but what in Toronto basically, right? People would go out for lunch or something, right? And people would just get a beer, like that's just a thing, like during lunch and everything. We just get a beer and like, especially if it was like we don't have lunch with like everyone all the time, so it's like kind of not an occasion, not a special thing, but like people just oh, let's just get a picture, like it's lunch, like let's have fun, it's a Friday or something, like that.
Yeah, for sure.
People would use that as like people would drink like during lunch and then go back and then be fine, kind of thing, right? But then after work and everything, you don't really have those like nomikai culture. So like people don't really, unless you have like your own group of friends.
Yeah.
And that's different, I think. Like your own like coworker group of friends, maybe you'll go out to drink or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
totally agree.
separate. But as like a company, just like a thing that you do, not as common. But that's weird to drink during lunch here. At least like, and I've asked a lot of my coworkers about like, oh, so like for example, if I ordered a beer right now, like what would you think? And they're like, what? Why would you order a beer? Like, it's very, very weird. So like, it's flipped in a way, right? It's interesting,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I guess for me, like the only time I've ever gone to that situation, like working in Canada, is that I guess maybe for like work kind of like retreats, because so for like my old company, we had like a yearly meeting with like literally everyone from the company, and like after all like the meetings and stuff were done, like people would go drinking, like either at the hotel or even like go to clubs and stuff.
Right.
But other than that, and that was like during a weekend too, which was very like uncommon. And we got paid for it as well. But like I don't think you get paid for Nobikai, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's off. That's off like work. That's like off work hours, right? So I mean, sometimes your boss will pay for like the people. I think like at the nomikai.
Oh, okay.
I think your boss sometimes will pay. I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that
In
true?
my case, before I went to Canada, I worked at the company as a salesperson, and then I was like new when I was a new, so like all bosses pay for me. Like when I joined the nomikai. So I think it depends on the company and also like my position, I think.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
you-
like whenever I have like lunch, for example, with like I guess like a senpai, right? Anyone that's older than me or that's been at the
Right.
company for longer, they always pay for me. Always.
Always. Yeah.
Like even if it's like someone that is like we're kind of friends. They were friends, but they're still like my senpai, I guess. They'll pay for me usually.
Yeah.
And then they always say to me like, "Oh, make sure you pay for you. Don't worry. You have to pay for your kohai. Your
Right.
Right,
That's
yeah,
the
makes sense.
culture. Yeah.
keep the cycle
Yeah.
going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting, right? Like it's like yeah. So
Does
there's
it
that
happen?
culture of like where you don't have to pay for it. There
Mhm.
you know, you just kind of keep that cycle going. But definitely like even in Toronto, for example, like what you said about like you know end of year party or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's I usually I guess after work or maybe like the work day ends halfway and then you do like
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
that I've experienced both in Toronto and Japan. Both of them had like even
okay.
in Japan here we had a Nokai, which is like an end of year party.
Oh, okay.
And like there I mean we were all like at our own desks or whatever because people were still like people were in the company or whatever, but then they just brought out like food and drinks or whatever.
Sure.
And like halfway through through the day we just like did that and like chatted with people, so it wasn't like a full-on nomikai like you know going to like a restaurant or something like that or like a izakaya or something, but just in the company and we had drinks and then food and that's it. So we had that there, and it's a smaller company, so like the scale was smaller.
Right. Yeah.
But in Toronto, at like the bigger company, like they went all out for like Christmas and like end of the year. They went like crazy on that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So those we had those kind of things, but it was more like events. I think are still kind of no matter where you go, you're gonna have those, but that's also usually on company time, I guess. I guess like sometimes it would happen on a weekend, but not too often.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like kind of smaller stuff like that that you maybe wouldn't think of. Because I guess also, so what I also heard is that so at Nomikai, like if you're the I guess the youngest or like the newest at the company, you also have to like pour drinks for everyone. And like if you're gonna cheers, like you have to be like below everyone or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, Japanese nomikai culture. Yeah.
That one
Cool.
I'm trying to for sure keep in mind. Whenever like I cheer it even like at lunch or something, I'll like make sure to you know like go lower.
For sure, yeah.
I think like people are kind of unconsciously doing that as well, kind of thing. Like the boss will like just normally do it kind of thing, right? And like they're okay with you know going like that, but like you know if you try to do it with your friends, then your friends are like, wait, no, what are you doing? And then they try to go lower.
Sure. Yeah, which is so interesting because in Canada, like we never really think about that kind of stuff.
No,
I feel like
not at all. I mean, sometimes like it depends on the person, but like someone that wants to, you know, fill everyone's cup or something like that. Like there's some people that you know will notice like that people's water cups are like empty and they'll like pour for everyone or whatever. But that's, like it's less of like that's more of a personality thing. I feel instead of like a
absolutely, yeah,
like a obligation, a societal obligation, you know, like, very different, right? So
yeah, I feel like it's almost the opposite. Like if someone like got like in Canada, no one would think it was rude if you didn't pour drinks for everyone else, and if you're like the youngest one or like newest in the company.
Yeah, I don't think.
Like,
Does it happen? Does it happen in Japan, in Canada?
I don't think so.
I can't think of that ever. Like maybe the only time I guess, and this isn't really work culture, but I guess sometimes people have like parents that really like it if their children do that kind of thing. So maybe they might get kind of angry, but that's about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's some cultures that are more strict about that. But then that becomes a cultural it goes back to
Yeah, I
being
guess it's culture. I guess
a cultural thing, right? In the end. So if you're from, I'm sure if there was maybe a Canadian, like a Japanese Canadian or something that was at the company
Mm-hmm.
that they heard all the stories from their family and everything, and then they worked at that game company in Toronto, they'd be filling everyone's cups when they started.
Yeah, that's true.
And they wouldn't think about it. Right? I'm sure that would happen, right? And everyone would be like, "Oh wow, he's so nice," but like they wouldn't think, "Oh, like he's supposed to do that." They're like, "Oh wow, he's just so nice," kind of thing. Like that's
Yeah.
what I feel people would think. That's what I would think.
Yeah, that kind of makes me wonder. So now, yeah, for you, was there any part of, I guess, Canadian work culture that was surprising for you?
Okay. That's a good question. I when I was in Canada, I worked for both company, like Japanese company and Canadian
Hmm.
company.
Mm,
I think
Hmm.
it's like just a Canadian restaurant, Japanese restaurant, and then
mm,
I
Yeah.
sometimes compared each other. And I think I'm not sure like every workplace in Canada is the same, but when I worked at the Canadian restaurant, say like everyone is not on time. Like you know,
Yeah. I guess I feel like it kind of depends on the
mm,
personality, but I
I
feel like in general in Canada, like our kind of, I don't know, the kind of atmosphere is just a lot less strict, I guess.
mm, mm.
Like
yeah.
I feel like if you're like 5 or 10 minutes late, like people
Mm.
are are generally okay with it.
Don't care about it.
Mm,
Okay. Mm. Like when I went to work at a Japanese restaurant, I
Hmm.
usually, keep on time. But when I went to like Canadian restaurant, I can be late. So
mm.
that's why, I was like,
Yeah, you like match
lazy.
your
Like,
clothes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
So, I think that's a surprising part for me. I think.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some, I think. But Mm. And also, sorry, I found like something like when I worked for Japanese restaurant, I couldn't eat in the middle of the working time. Like,
Mhm,
mm,
but at a Canadian restaurant, everyone could
mhm.
eat like something, like could drink anything
mm.
around here,
Oh,
like
okay, sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
like something for to make some foods, like ingredients to make
Mhm.
something like
Sure.
we could eat it, so that's also different, like a big difference,
Mm,
I think,
Mhm.
in
yeah.
between them.
So
Yeah,
definitely the Japanese side is definitely more strict, right? Like you eat
so
during this
strict.
time, you
Yeah,
work during this time, you arrive
Mhm.
at this time, you leave at this time. It's
yeah,
like very set and like that
very
schedule is
organized.
there.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
like
definitely.
punctual. So
Mm,
mm, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I
Mhm.
liked working at the Canadian restaurant because I'm not sure if it's good, but I didn't need to be very punctual. I
mm,
I could be like lazy sometimes.
mm.
So
Mhm.
and
I mean, it's
then
stressful. It's stressful, right? Like to always be exactly on time
Mhm.
every day.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
even for Japanese people, I think
Oh yeah, I see
everyone.
people running all the time, and it's like, because for my company, they're very chill with when you come. Like,
Oh, that's
it
awesome.
starts at 10, but
Oh,
people come at 11 sometimes, right? Like it's very
Oh, wow.
it's
mm,
very very like open. Some people come at eleven
flexible.
thirty, kind of like no one cares.
Mm,
But like but I usually come at 10. I try to come at 10 to I like
Sure.
having like a daily schedule for myself.
Yeah, I'm sure as the new guy too, you want to like make the best impression
Yeah. I
possible.
don't want to
Yeah.
like come in at 11 randomly one day and then 10
Yeah.
another day.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be there
mm,
on every same time every day. But sometimes like
Mhm.
I'll come between like 9:55 and like 10:10 or something. It's like a little range because
Mhm.
like the trains
Sure.
are sometimes late or like sometimes I just can't get out of bed or random stuff like that. Uh,
Sure.
mm,
but when I'm like arriving to work when it's like 9:59 or something and I'm on the streets, everyone's
Mhm.
sprinting. Everyone's like everyone around me is just sprinting for their lives, right? To like not be late to work because I guess their work starts at
That's
10,
funny.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then
yeah.
I'll like enter. I always like pass by. I always go to like the convenience store on my way
Mm.
to work.
Mhm.
And if I ever go in after 10, like even if it's like 10:01, there's no one there. No one.
Oh, that's
No.
crazy.
There's like because everyone's at work now. Everyone's like
Yeah,
no
yeah,
one's
yeah.
gonna be late, right? And like be in line at the convenience store. So then, but if I come a little early, if I'm there at like 9:55 or something,
Mhm.
uh, huge line, huge line. Like there's so many people.
Mm.
So I've started to like I don't know. I like being a little bit later on the later side, so I don't.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense then.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Yeah, yeah. So many sprinting
Like
people. Yeah.
like Alex, are there some like people from other countries in your country?
In my
In your
company.
sorry, in your company, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say there's like 10% maybe are
Mm.
from other countries. We have like one guy that came around the same time as me. Like he's also a new grad.
Mhm.
From America.
Mm.
There's a girl from America. There's a guy from like Belgium and like France,
Mm.
and there's a couple of people from China. There's a couple of people from
Mhm.
Korea, stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Mm.
Mm.
I just wonder like how you found your job like in Japan like before
Oh
you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I was first like applying to like big game companies and everything that I wanted to work for,
Mm.
Mhm.
just directly kind of thing. And that was hard because I also like I don't have the JLPT N1, which is
Mm.
usually a prerequisite for
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of especially like big companies like that, right? Where if you
Mhm.
don't have N1, then they won't even like look at the rest of your resume, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's what I found. That's what happened to me, right? Like uh, I had N2, but then they said, oh, you don't have N1, so we don't think we can
Mhm.
trust you with tasks or something
Mm.
like that. Like I was like, what? I was like, whoa. But then like the few companies I did like interview for,
Mhm.
um, they were surprised I only had N2 from like talking and everything. So like
Hmm.
that's when I found like the JLPT really doesn't like prove what you can do, for better or worse, right? Like
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I guess that's just the kind of limitation of any test. Like, it's,
yeah,
I think most cases, like, I feel it's like really rare that a test is gonna be like a super accurate representation.
very rare.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, because like especially for like kind of standardized tests,
Mm.
it's really, of course, it's gonna focus on the most like textbook stuff, but like I feel like knowing some of the more I don't know, I guess casual and like slang kind of stuff is also pretty important too. Um,
Mm.
especially because like when you're making friends and stuff, like that's what you're gonna be using most of the time.
Yeah, yeah. I found like the casual stuff is also important in a company sometimes as well, uh,
Oh, sure.
because like everyone's trying to be, they use Kaggle, like the formal
Mhm.
language, everything all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes, like you're talking to like someone and like they'll put a little bit of like casual into a little bit,
Yeah, 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 sure, sure.
and then you feel closer already,
Hmm.
like you're always speaking like formally, and all of a sudden like someone will say a little bit casual, like, ooh, like we're friends now. Like
Sure,
it
sure.
feels
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and you get like you close in that distance between each other, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and like that's a really good way to like get closer with your coworkers,
Hmm.
I think. Um,
Mm.
you know, uh, rather than always just being very very formal all the time.
Sure, sure. Yeah,
So I think there's value in both for sure. Like if
for
you
sure.
understand the whole range, then you can smartly choose the right
Yeah,
moment
yeah,
what to
yeah,
do.
Yeah, yeah.
What was I saying? How I got the the job. um, got derailed a bit. So yeah, I was like applying to a bunch of like separate companies and everything like that, and that was
Mhm.
hard, right? Because I have to do a lot of like the research myself and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Eventually, I found like a couple like agents, I guess, like
Sure, sure.
I don't know, like headhunters. I don't know what they call it, recruiters
Mm.
maybe, but they're like not
Yeah.
like with the company. They're like people that will talk to companies for you as like a
Oh, okay.
it's like a proxy in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But so that's when they would like send me. So I was working with a couple of them at the same time, kind of thing, and they would like send me from different companies that like to see if I was interested or whatever, and then they would send over my resume and talk with like the people directly, and schedule all the interviews and stuff for me, and it's all free for me.
That's
The
awesome.
company in the end pays for like their services.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
based on my salary. So for me, it's 100% free, which is really nice, honestly.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
And it turns out the company I'm at now only works with those agencies. Like you can't like it's
Oh,
hard
wow.
to actually get like an interview directly, just because
Mhm.
they don't they're a small company, so they prefer like working with like efficiently with like a agent rather than like
Sure.
one-on-one kind of thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
so then they sent me the company. It was a small company, and they're like my company is pretty small, and their
Mhm.
website is pretty trash. Like they don't update it. Like it's very very like you look at it and it's very suspicious. It doesn't look like a real company.
Sure, sure.
So I was like, I looked at it, I was like, I don't know if I want to apply to this
Mhm.
company. But I didn't have too much else going on as well. So then I interviewed, and it was
Mhm.
it just clicked there. It was like it was really good company, really good people. So it worked out.
Yeah, that's great.
But that's how I found the job, and interviewed like had like 3 interviews, and then yeah, that was it.
3 interviews.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm.
I guess just to speak about like trying to find a job in Japan as a foreigner a little bit,
Mm.
especially if you have a job where it's really specific, because so for me for a little while,
Mm.
I also want to try working in Japan in my field,
Mm.
and I guess I haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, but so I in school I studied biomedical engineering technology, which basically
Mm.
means I fix medical instruments.
Mm.
Which like even in Canada, like most people don't even know what that is. Like
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
to explain to people like every
yeah.
time.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So like to find information about those kind of jobs in Japan
Mhm.
was like it was pretty difficult. Like
I can imagine.
I was a little bit more fortunate just because like my last company was a Japanese company.
Really?
Um
Okay. Okay. Mm.
yeah, so like I was looking into working with them. Didn't quite work out just for the time being, but you know,
Mm.
maybe in the future we'll see. But yeah,
Mm.
it was very difficult. The only reason I kind of found out more besides my company was just meeting people from Japan.
Mm.
So I guess my advice for you if you're trying to find a job in Japan and something really specific is I guess maybe try going to meetups,
Mm.
and there's an okay chance that you'll find someone with at least a similar job and they could probably give you some
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, I think like those connections are really interesting. If anything, even if it's like not someone that like will give you a job. I doubt anyone. There's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
a lot of people that are going to be
Mm.
giving you jobs from meetups, but
yeah, for sure.
like kind of broadening your horizons in a way, like
Absolutely.
understanding the culture more, and like getting some sort of insight from like if you especially if you meet someone in your industry in your
Yeah.
like career industry, like understanding that industry better, and like
Mhm.
knowing oh maybe you should apply to this company, or like oh if I know I
Yeah.
have a friend that maybe there maybe I'll introduce you, like there's like little stuff there that like
Yeah,
builds up over
absolutely. Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, especially because if it's like something really specific, like it's gonna be really hard to find information from foreigners that have worked there. Like I don't think I've ever met anyone else that's worked in Japan in my
Mm-hmm.
field.
Yeah.
Um
Mm-hmm.
so like even for me, like I'd never found anyone that worked from Japan that's worked in my field, but I did find people that were like a doctor or a nurse, and even then,
Mm-hmm.
like could still give me a lot of valuable information. So even if
For
they
sure.
don't have the exact same job, they can still give you a lot of
For
like
sure.
really good
I
information. Yeah.
I would recommend for anyone, honestly, even for you, Zach, right? Like Twitter
Mhm.
is, I think, where it's at right now to like
Oh, okay.
connect with like people that very very niche places, like people that are
Sure,
in very
sure.
very niche places right now. Like I wish I started Twitter a lot earlier. Like I started it because of like
Sure.
for YouTube and everything, and that's when I started
Mhm.
connecting with a lot of people. But the communities there are like super niche, and like there's a lot of like really interesting people there. Like if I went there, I probably would have known a lot more about the game industry in Japan if I
Oh,
started three
cool.
years ago. there, just
Yeah,
because
that's
like
definitely vibe operation then. Yeah.
so like I'm sure 100% sure there's the biomedical engineering community of like 7 people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but like and I'm sure like there's a lot to learn from there, right? It's probably
Absolutely, yeah.
might be hard to like. I mean, maybe it'll be easy to search. I don't even know because it's pretty niche. So maybe it's easy. I don't know. They're there for sure.
It's probably there. Yeah, it's probably out there
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to start, even if you don't interact with them, just learning from there what they tweet and everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Good place to start. So I recommend that if you're interested.
Yeah, I definitely will have to check that out because I've also never really taken up Twitter either. So maybe this is the time to get in for me.
This is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex,
Oh.
Alex, can I ask you? Alex, are you living in where do you live in Japan? Like
I'm in Tokyo right now.
Tokyo right now. So like
Yeah.
people in before you came to work in Japan, did you choose a place where you want to live? Like did you try to find?
I see. Like when because I came to Japan on vacation like maybe 2-3 years ago. And that's when I did like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and like I did like the main, what everyone does, you know. So there I got to understand like the different regions, the main regions there that are like there's a lot of game companies in Osaka and there's a lot of game companies
For
in
sure,
Tokyo. There's a couple, I guess Nintendo and everything, they're in Kyoto. So there's like the main they're like the main ones where there's a lot of game companies. So but I liked Tokyo the most, I think. Like I'm definitely like a big city. I like the big city a lot. So definitely that made me want to stick with Tokyo the most. So I kind of like came in. I was okay with Osaka as well because there's a lot of good companies there, but
For sure.
I wanted to be in Tokyo, I think. After visiting and like understanding the region better, and like I also have a bunch of like a lot of like meetup friends and everything. They're all from Tokyo as well, so like if I came to Tokyo, I'd have a stronger foundation, of friends and everything to start with, which
Makes
is
sense,
good. So it all worked out that way.
Interesting. Okay. But is that like priority for you? Like where you live, where you work, like in Japan?
Like yeah, for sure. Like I think the region definitely matters a lot. For me at least. Because like also especially in the game industry, like working from home is not a common thing.
Oh, okay.
It's very common to like because like you need a really strong computer, for example, to like do all the stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So then like, and I've worked from home twice, I think, so far. In Japan.
Wow.
In Japan. And that was just because I was feeling like a little sick. But so there I had to like use my laptop and like connect using like remote desktop to my like computer there, and it was just so like I could not do anything. It was like the least productive 2 days ever. Because I work, I have 2 monitors, I have a proper desk and chair, and like the computer is crazy strong, and like there's no way I could get that here.
Yeah, for sure.
So because of that, like and because I'm going to be going to work every day, I think like my area is really, really important to me, where I actually work.
For sure.
That's why I wanted to go with Tokyo.
Just okay. I see.
Yeah, I guess it might be like more difficult if you were like in like Tohoku or something, and like you had to like drive to work. Way more difficult.
I also don't like long commutes. I really don't like long commutes. When I was in Toronto, I had to like I lived downtown for a little bit, but like I was at home a lot. And one way it was like an hour and a half or something.
Oh my god!
So I was in like the suburbs, right? And I was going to, like, downtown Toronto every day, kind of thing.
Oh my gosh!
Wait, were you taking like public transportation or were you driving?
Public transportation. I was driving. No, I was like driving from like the suburbs to Finch Station, like the most north subway station in Toronto. And then from there I was taking public transit, and I had to like do 2 stops.
That's crazy.
and then walk a bunch. It was crazy. It was nuts. So like even during rush hour is like sometimes
Wow.
2 hours kind of thing, right? One
Oh,
way.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, I did a lot of Japanese studies though during like
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
For
tried
sure.
to use
For sure.
that time, but I hated it. So now I try to limit.
what about
my
now?
time.
Now,
Yeah. For sure.
how long will it take
Now
to?
it's now I'm doing like 30-40 minutes, which is not ideal. I'm moving soon.
Oh, okay.
Because my office is moving like soon, so
Mhm.
I'm trying to with like at the same time trying to move, so then I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
like
That'd be good.
Okay.
so I'm like looking at a place right now that's a 6-minute walk from my new office.
Oh, that's
which
perfect. Yeah. That's
Mm.
awesome.
Ooh, that'll
That's so good.
that'll make me so happy. But yeah, that's my situation right now.
Okay. Like, is it difficult to find a place where you live in Japan? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
like,
the worst.
if
It's the worst.
it's worse.
Yeah. Like as a
Like
foreigner, it's
As
so
a
bad.
foreigner, so
yeah,
I
like I thought that like being Canadian and like
Mhm.
speaking Japanese and being able to
yeah.
speak enough Japanese would have
Yeah.
helped
Yeah.
me. But like even yet, yeah, so yesterday and the day before yesterday, I was
Mhm.
at like an agency the whole day.
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
both right, we were looking for
For
a
sure.
place.
Mhm.
And I would say like only 30% of places
Mhm.
are actually okay with foreigners. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
small. It's a pretty
Yeah.
small.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I mean like the guy I was working with, like he's super nice, and like he wasn't showing. He would check every place before even showing me.
Yeah.
Like because you know if I don't you don't want like me to like a place and then you check and then you're like, oh actually you can't
Mhm.
because you're a foreigner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want
Mm.
to hear that, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But like yesterday I found a place on my own. Like I found like a thing online,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, I want to live here,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? Like it was this beautiful place, right? And I was
Yeah.
like so excited to like visit it
Mhm.
or whatever, right? But it was I found it myself. I didn't check anything. They didn't say anything about foreigners, right? So now I was like, oh, can you please
Yeah.
check this place?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then it turned out it was bad. You can like it was no foreigners kind of thing. Uh, it
Mm.
sucked.
Yeah. It sucks so much. Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it was like for because they had bad experiences with foreigners before. I think like there people
Mhm.
threw like parties or something like that. Um,
Mhm.
and they had bad experiences with them before, so they just kind of like did a whole all right, no foreigners at all, then kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, in the end, you probably don't want to live with, you don't want to have an owner that thinks like that either.
Yeah.
I feel so
That's
like
true.
it's a good way
Mm.
to filter the people you don't
For
want
sure.
to kind of be associated with. But yeah.
Yeah. I
Mm.
guess just to speak to that a little bit more, just I guess for advice for people moving to Tokyo, I guess like especially if you want your own place, or I should say in Japan in general, if you want your own place, like try to find a city that has agencies that like cater to foreigners,
Mm,
because it makes it a lot easier. Like it's though it can be kind of surprising sometimes, because like when I was looking for places, I was
mm.
looking for places in like Kanagawa, and there were like no agencies that catered to
Oh,
foreigners.
I can
So
imagine. I can
Mm.
imagine. It's very,
yeah,
very niche. Yeah.
for sure. I mean, for me, it was also a little different. I had a bit of an easier time just because since my girlfriend's Japanese, that
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
definitely helped. But still,
Mm-hmm.
like it's surprising even in that situation how many places like we were turned down from.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird. I thought it'd be a little better. I thought it'd be like, oh, maybe like 20% of places are not okay, but like
Mhm.
a
Mm.
lot of
Yeah, it's
I did not
crazy.
expect like 70% to just say no.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so hopefully that's changing one day. But
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you could get that 6 minutes away from your work. That would be
yeah,
that'd be great.
I'm like very picky as well, so I'm like trying to because I can like apply for it right away, but I'm like also like, is there a better place? Is there a better? I
Yeah.
gotta
Oh
like,
yeah. That's
I'm like,
that's the eternal problem. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
because I also saw like another place I really really liked was just like the
Mm.
perfect place.
Mhm.
So then it's always in my mind, and I was like, maybe there's another place like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Mm.
yeah, so now I'm trying. I just hope it doesn't get taken away at this point. So I'm playing with fire right now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, best of luck. So, do you prefer? I guess playing video games. Do you prefer Western games or Japanese ones?
Um,
Mm.
depends on it. Like I I enjoy a good indie game. I really like indie
Oh,
games.
okay.
Like the smaller, small scale games. I really enjoy those.
Mhm.
And those, I feel like the Japanese indie game industry isn't too big right now. I think it's growing,
Hmm.
um, but obviously like in the West, definitely
It's pretty
it's
big.
very, very big, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
small studios. Like my favorite game is called A Short Hike. It's by a guy. It's by one guy, a guy from Toronto actually.
Cool.
I met him in Toronto actually. He did like a talk, and then like got to chill with him a little bit after, which is super cool. But definitely that's like my favorite game, and something that you can finish in like an hour or two.
Sure.
I've replayed it like 10 times, but like it's great.
Mhm.
But that's a Western game, I would say.
Mhm.
But I do enjoy, like, a lot of my childhood was based on like Kingdom Hearts and Pokemon.
Sure.
So I really there's definitely a lot of love for Japanese games as well in my heart. The bigger games, the bigger like Western games, like the big open world games or whatever, I enjoy, but I never have time for it. So I never like.
Yeah,
Like,
I get it.
It's especially now. Maybe as a kid I like them more. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's not. I don't play them now for sure. So I'm kind of in a weird middle of like I'm weird middle there. Especially as an adult,
Yeah,
where I just play Rocket League all the time. That's all I do now. So maybe I guess that's the Western
sure.
game.
Yeah, no
I know, Zach. I remember, like you said in like a previous podcast, right, where
worries.
you don't like Western games. Was it? Or
It's okay. It kind of in that episode. It seems like I don't
Mm.
like Western games. It's just that I'm so picky. Like I'm
oh no,
so picky.
you should be picky. You should be picky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lately I'm kind of the same with you. Like like when I was in like high school, especially, like I really liked open world games. Like I really enjoyed like the Fall games, especially a lot, and I guess like Assassin's Creed games as well. But these days, like if I hear a game's open world, it's a bit of a turnoff for me.
I feel
Almost
that,
because
yeah.
it's like there's almost too much to do.
Yeah, I like. When
I
am I gonna
just
have that time? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like I want just like a good focused experience.
right.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like all about the smaller, the smaller
Sure,
games.
yeah.
Yeah, like definitely A Short Hike. Everyone should play that. It's like $5. So if you have some time, play that. I recommend it.
Sure.
It's on Switch as well. I don't know. I'm
Oh,
not
awesome.
so strong for it, but I'm a big fan of it.
What's the genre? I mean, I guess kind of beyond indie game.
Oh, A Short Hike.
Yeah.
It's I mean, hikes in the name, so I guess there's like walking, but like it's a top down. It's kind of top down ish. Like
Oh, okay.
you're a bird, a talking bird. Like you're in a
Okay.
world where like everyone's just animals and they all talk normally.
Sure.
And you're visiting like family that lives on this island or whatever, like for a summer vacation.
Okay, cool.
But there's no reception. And apparently there's only reception at the top of the mountain that's in the middle of this island. So you have to do this short hike to get reception because you want to call your mom, and so you have to get to the top of the mountain. That's the whole point of the game.
I like it.
But what the best thing is just like all the NPCs that you can talk to are like it's very like dialogue driven, where like they're just like the cutest things, and like they're really really well animated. Like the pop bubbles itself, like the speech and everything is like super, like it's like how people text nowadays, where like they'll send like 20 messages really small that are like, hey, what's up? I don't really know what it's like.
Sure.
Really really like small right there, right? But it's like super cute, and like it really works with like how like we talk nowadays, I feel. And like you just love every character. Like a lot of personality. I played it in Japanese as well recently because I played it normally on like on PC on Steam, and then I found out they have now Japanese on Switch, and so I bought it immediately and I played it again. And in Japanese it's also like really really cute, and like
awesome.
It was properly translated. I feel like there's a lot of personality in every message they have, kind of thing. It's really cute. I recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess for sure check that out. Okay, so I guess with that we'll wrap it up. So yeah, of course, thank you again for being here, Alex. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was fun. It was kind of talked for a little too long, but
yeah, that's great. It's great to catch up too. Yeah. So once again, can you just tell people where they can find you?
Oh yeah.
I guess and whatnot.
Yeah. So I normally I'm putting most of my efforts right now into my podcast just because I'm busy, so I don't have time to make videos. But check out the Ikinari podcast. It's every week. Thursday or Friday. I don't know. It's also kind of Ikinari random when we post
Sure.
it.
It fits with the theme.
Yeah, no, we're trying to be on brand, you know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, check out my YouTube as well, SomewhatJP, or I'm on Twitter a lot as well. So at me there. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here again. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Uh, Yeah, and then so for next week, I think we're going to be talking about actually Naoyo's experience
Yep.
in Japan versus
Mm.
Canada. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. You could find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, French, you name it. We're probably on it. And yeah, so till next week. またね。
またね。
またね。